Okay, so we're gonna start today where we left off last time. Pay hey Amud Bet 85B3. So we ended off talking about someone who cursed or someone who hit their parents, and we saw that cursing is more strict than hitting, because even if you curse a parent after their death, you're still hayav mitah. Cursing mitah was skila, whereas hitting only when they're alive, because you have to cause a bleed, and when they're dead, you can't cause the bleed. So now the Mishnah, the Gemara starts off on the first wide line in the Hebrew. In the English, 85B3, the left column, bottom paragraph. V'litnei homer b'makeh mi ba mikalel. Why does the Mishnah also bring another strictness to the other way and say there's a strictness by hitting that you don't have by cursing? Litnei homer b'makeh demikalel. Why? She'amakeh aseh bo shelo b'amecha keva'amecha. Ma'ashe'en kem b'mekalel. Okay, so we saw a pasuk last time where it said v'nati b'amecha lo ta'or. Don't curse a prince among you. Any Jew you can't curse. But it says b'amecha. So he said, oh, v'amecha, only if they're in your nation, they act like a Jew, a proper Jew, then you can't curse them. And if they don't act like a proper Jew, you could curse them. So the Gemara wants to say that means by hitting, it doesn't say that. So that means by hitting, there's a strictness. If you hit a parent, whether they're va'amecha, no va'amecha, you're still be hayav. But by cursing, only if they're va'amecha. So the Gemara says, kasava makshinan haka'a liklala. No, the Mtana of our Mishnah compares hitting to cursing. There's a hekesh. There's a few psukim away to make a comparison. So the same way by hitting, it says nasiba amecha has to be in your nation. You can't curse them. So compare the same thing to by hitting. Only if they're in your nation, you can't hit them. So based on this explanation, Solema hane tanae kahane tanae. So this machloket, if whether you make the hekesh between cursing and hitting for va'amecha v'lo va'amecha, lema hane tane kahane tane. Maybe this is the same machloket we have over here. What's this other machloket? The Tanakh Hadaf, it was taught in the Braita. Kuti. A Kuti. Kuti was a Samaritan. There are Samaritans even today. Who are them? They are people who Sanhedrin brought to Eretz Yisrael after he exiled the northern tribes, right? The tribes in Israel, the 10 tribes, he exiled them, and he had to bring people to live the land, otherwise the land will become dangerous. And those people came, the Goyim, and they started getting attacked by lions. And they came up with the idea that it's perhaps because they're not serving the right God. Every land has its own God. Since they're in a new land, they should learn the new God. They found out it was Hashem, so they became Gerim. And it was a question, were they real Gerim, were they not really Gerim? Eventually, we said they're not Jews completely because they took hard Gerizim, they made it their mountain, and they made their own Mikdash, and they had Avodah Zarah on it, and they're not Jewish anymore. Even though today the Samaritans bring what's called a Korban Pesach, and they do other interesting things, they're not Jews. So, but during this time, during the times of Mishnayot, there was question whether Jews or not. And there is a Mishnah that said, Kuti, Ata Mitzaver al Hakato, Ata Mitzaver al Kilato. You're not allowed to hit him, but you're allowed to curse him. That's one opinion. And there was another Braita. You're allowed to hit him, and you're allowed to curse him. So one Braita says, cursing yes, hitting no. And one Braita says, cursing and hitting both yes. How do we understand this? Everybody, both these rabbis, both these Tanaim agree that Kutim were real Gerim. They're Jews. Okay? But now they start with the Zara. So they're no more Va'amecha. They're no longer in your nation. One says you compare the hitting to the cursing. By the cursing, it says Va'amecha has to be in your nation. And since they're not in your nation, you're allowed to curse them. So, and you compare hitting and cursing. So if they're not in your nation, you're allowed to hit them too. So that's the opinion, the Tana Idach, that you're allowed to curse and hit because they're getting real Jews and they are not ba'amecha. They're no longer in the nation because they're saying, what does that have? She's allowed to hit and curse. And the other opinion says, no, we don't make this hekesh. We don't make this comparison. Therefore, you're not allowed to hit him because it says there, don't hit. It doesn't say ba'amecha. But by cursing, you're allowed to curse him because there it says ba'amecha and he's not ba'amecha. He's no longer ba'amecha. Like, what's the law? Why you have to learn it this way? Maybe everyone agrees you don't compare hitting to cursing. You don't compare. So they don't make the comparison. So what are they arguing about? One says the kutim are gere emet, the real Jews, and there's no hekesh. Therefore, you can curse, but you can't hit. So you can curse, but you can't hit. The other opinion holds they're not even Jews. The gerim arayot, they're fake converts. They converted because of the lines, not because they wanted to convert. And if such, they're goyim. And then by goyim, there's no issue with cursing them, and there's no issue with hitting them. So therefore, maybe that's the way to learn it. But I said, you can't learn it that way. Because right after that, we have the Braita that says, Veshoro Israel, that the shore of a kuti is like an ox of a Jew. What's the difference? Right? For tam and muad, chatzi nezik and full payment. Right? If a Jew's ox hits someone for the first 3 times, he's considered a tam. He pays half the payment. Only after then he pays. But if it's a guy's ox that's doing it, then one time already has to pay shulmi nezik. Right? And if it hits a guy's ox, he might not have to pay. So, and we said over here, Sharoka Yisrael. So it must be that the Mahloka, the Tanaim about the Kutim, the arguing in this Hekesh. Do you say the Klalat compare it to Maka'am, hitting to cursing, cursing to hitting, or not? Shmamina, that this is the Mahloka. If there is a comparison or not. Okay, fine. That is the Gemara up until that point. Now we're starting a new Mishnah. Okay? The Mishnah is Hagonev Nefesh Misrael. Someone who kidnaps a Jew. Jew kidnaps a Jew. Eno Hayav ad shechasen l'shuto. He's not Hayav until he takes him into his own domain. Meaning if you kidnap somebody, but you leave him on his property, you didn't take him to your property, you're not Hayav. If you had Omer, Yehuda says, you have to bring him into your property and you have to use him. As it says, use him and sell him. Then you're going to be responsible. Okay? If someone steals his own son, kills his own son. It says he's chayiv. Chayav mita of chenek. The Chachamim say no. The father kidnaps his son, he's potter. Someone kidnaps a Eved who's half free and half a slave. Chachamim say, no, you're potter from mita if you kidnap half a slave, half a free man. Okay, first starts off. Rabbi Yehuda is the one who says that you have to use him. But Tanakama lo ba'imur. What the Tanakama would say, you don't have to use him, but the pasuk says, you have to use and you have to sell in order to be hayav mita for kidnapping. Oh no, there's the rabbis also, Tanakama agrees. You have to use him, you have to sell him. But the question is, how did you use him less than a shavah pruta? Okay, according to Yehuda, you have to use him a shavah pruta because it says hitamir bo umcharo, comparing the selling to the usage. Just like you can't sell something for less than a shavah pruta, so too you cannot use him for less than a shavah pruta. The Chachamim are not makbid like that; they're not medayik like that, and they say no. Even if you use him, even kosher, even a little amount, whatever it was, even less than a penny's worth of use, he's already going to be chayav mita of chenek. Ba'e Rabbi Yirmiyah ganvo umacharo yashen mahu. Someone kidnapped and sold a victim who was asleep. Okay, you kidnapped him while he was asleep. Machar isha u'baramahu. You sold the woman's fetus, not the woman itself, not the pregnant woman, but the fetus. What is the law? Gemara says, woman, can you use the guy if he's sleeping? Can you use the fetus? Or there's no derech. There's no usage here. There's no usage here. There is usage. Why? Yashen it's where the person is sleeping and the kidnapper leaned on him. So you're using him to lean on. So therefore, it's the usage. Ishad okma ve'ape zika. Okay, and the woman, you positioned her fetus in a way for the fetus to block the wind from coming onto you, to the person. So, derech imur bekach or en derech imur bekach? Is this considered derech imur usage or not? So the Gemara ends off teku. The question we don't know. So, what would be the halacha in these cases? Halacha would be in these cases, since it's a teku, tafik nefashot, when it comes to killing someone, we won't kill them unless we know for sure that he's hayab mitah. Okay, so here. One is not liable for abducting, exploiting, and selling an individual if he does so while the abductee is asleep. As the dilemma stands unresolved, and the halacha is lenient in all cases of uncertainty with regard to capital cases. One who sells a woman with the sole intent of exploiting her fetus is not liable to be executed, as it's a teku. Halacha is lenient in all cases of uncertainty with regard to capital cases. Okay. One last idea here the Rambam says, one who sits or reclines upon an abductee is liable to be executed. Even the value of excitation is less than a shava pruta, right? Because we hold like the Tanakama. And even if the abductee is sleeping, meaning that he's sleeping while you're leaning on him, not that the whole thing happens while he's sleeping. Okay, because if it's happening while he's sleeping, then the Rambam says, and then it's a teku on that, right? Using him while he's sleeping is not considered a teku. It's only doing the whole thing that would remain a teku. Just because we started the halachot on this, just look back a little bit. One who abducts a fellow Jew is liable to be executed by strangulation. He's only liable if he brings the abductee into his domain, exploits him, and sells him to others. Even if he exploited him for less than a shavar pruta. Again, like the Tanakam. One who abducts his son, okay, that was in the Mishnah, or a younger brother is exempt from liability. Like the Chachamim, and we'll see why. Half slave, half free man. One who abducts a half slave, half free man, Allah is like the Chachamim, and he is potter from being Hayav Mitah. Okay. Okay, now let's take a look. The Gemara continues. Tanur Banan. There's a pasuk that says, "Ki yimatzeh ish gonev nefesh me'av." One man is found kidnapping a person of his brethren. Okay, so ish ganav. So it's ki yimatzeh ish gonev. So it's when a man is stealing, man is kidnapping. Isha menayan. How do I know if a woman is the kidnapper? What, if the woman is the kidnapper? Patur? No, it can't be. Tamad lomar. It says vegonev ish. There's another pasuk, right? It says vegonev. They stole a man. Vegonev ish. They stole a man. Not that the man was stealing. So vegonev is anyone stealing. So enli ish gana ben isha uben ish. So I know if a man steals a man or a woman, because it says kimatze ish gonev. If a man steals nefesh me'ahab. So a nefesh is isha or ish. So we have a man kidnapping a man or a woman. The ish and we have a pasuk for when a woman kidnaps a man. Vegonev ish. Okay? Isha sheganava isha menayim. How do I know if a woman kidnaps a woman? Talmud loymar umed haganav hahu. It says in the end of the pasuk umed haganav hahu, and that's tam haganav. Doesn't mean man or female, either one. So bekom makom. So if you steal either or, you're going to be hayav mitah. So it comes out. Man steals a man, kidnaps a man or a woman. A woman kidnaps a man or a woman, and they work them and they sell them. Then it's going to be hayav mitah. Tana idach ki matza ish gonev nefesh me'ehav. Okay, ehad gonev et ish ואחד הוא גונב את האישה, ואחד גר, if you kidnap a ger, ואחד עבד, משחורר, and also if he was a freed slave, so he's a Jew now, וקטן, and a katan, God, even if he's 1 day old, says the Meiri, as long as he's not a no-fel, not going to die within 30 days, he's not born in the, what is it, the 8th month, right? He doesn't have any physical defects that no reason for him not to live. And he kidnaps him and he uses the kid by leaning on him or whatever, and he sells them. Obviously, there has to be a warning and witnesses and all that, right? If you kidnapped him, but you didn't sell him. Or if you sold him, but you never took him out of his property. Okay? Potter. Then he is Potter. Now, what does it mean? He's still in his property. So the simple way we learn Rashi and Rambam that you kidnap the guy in his own house, right? You caught him and you kidnapped him in his own house. And then you sold him from that house, you're not going to be Hayav Mita. The Ramban goes a step further and says, even if he's in your own property, meaning that the kidnapper steals him, brings him to his own house, but he doesn't deliver him to the person he sold him to, right? He's still in his house. He's not going to be Hayav Mita. He has to end up in the property of the person that is buying him from the kidnapper. Okay? If you sold him to the father or the brother, or to any of the relatives, Hayav. It will be Hayav. Okay? That's like Rabbi Yehuda. And if you kidnap Avadim, slaves, Potter. The Gemara says, Tana Tanei Kamed Rav Sheshet. Tana was teaching the above Braita in the presence of Rav Sheshet. Amale, Ani Shoneh. I learned in another Braita. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Me'ehav. It says in the Pasuk Me'ehav, Achi Otzienu Mirshut Ehav. You have to take him out of the brother's property. And here you're selling it to the father or the brother. He's not leaving his brother's family. He's not leaving his father's family. The Gemara says, Tene Patur. It should be switch it to Patur. If you're selling it to the father, or you're selling it to the brother or to a relative, it's going to be Patur. My kushya, why are you changing it? Dilma Harabi Shimon, Harabanan. Maybe it's a machlok, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and the rabbis, right? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says that he's going to be Pater, and the rabbis, like the Braita we had first, says, Hayav, la saketata. Don't think like this. I'm Rabbi Yochanan. Stam matnitin Rabbi Meir. If you have a Mishnah, it doesn't say who it is, it's Rabbi Meir. Sam Tosefta Rabbi Nehemiah. Whenever you have a Tosefta was a collection of Mishnayot that did not get into the Mishnah. Okay? Rabbi Nasi didn't take all of them. So that's a Tosefta. Stam Sifra Rabbi Huda. When you have a Sifra is the Midrash Halacha on Vayikra, right? It's a Stam Sifra is Rabbi Huda. Stam Sifrei, when you have a Sifrei, right? That is Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Sifrei is the Midrash Halacha on Bamidbar V'Dvarim. And all these is the students of Rabbi Akiva, right? Kind of like Bomer, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Akiva, his students. Thus the Braita, there's Kotor of Sheshet, is codified in the Sifri. And it's anonymous there. And that's Rabbi Shimon. And so this Braita is Rabbi Shimon. And therefore you cannot say that Rabbi Shimon is arguing with the Chachamim. Because this is the Braita of Rabbi Shimon. And therefore Rabbi Shimon says it is Patur. So you have to change this text to Patur. Okay? So yeah. So it says over here, one is liable for abducting any Jew, whether the abductee is an adult, minor, man or woman born to Jewish parents, or a convert, or an emancipated slave. Further, one who abducts, exploits, and sells another, but never brought the abductee into his own domain. Or one who sold him, exploited him, but did not sell him. One who kidnapped him and exploited him, but did not sell him. Or one who sold him before exploiting him. You sold before using him. Or one who sold him to one of the relatives of the abductee is exempt from liability. Okay? So that's what the Rambam says. Right. Okay. All right, fine. Now, Hagoneh beno. Okay, someone kidnaps his own son. The Chachamim said he's patur. Rabbi Yochanan said he's chayav. Mita. The Chachamim say patur. Why the rabbi say he's patur? Amar kera. Amar Abaye says the Amar kera. It says in pasuk ki yimatzeh. If a man is found kidnapping a person, prat limatzui, excludes the case where the victim was already accessible to the kidnapper. Meaning you have to go out of your way to find the person to kidnap. Then you be hayab mita. But if it's the child is right there, whatever the person's right there, and it's matsui, not going to be hayab. Papa said, what are you talking about? It says if a man is found to have an adulterous relationship with a woman, right, a woman who's married to her husband, and it says she commits adultery, it says kiyimatzeh. So hachinami kiyimatzeh prat lematzui gon shebe ploni deshchichan gabahu hachinami de petre. You're saying, oh, you only chayav if he goes out of his way to find a woman to have an adulterous relationship with, then he's chayav mita. But if he lives in a house where there are multiple married women and they're right next to him and he has access to them and he has his way with them, that he's going to be patur because it's already found. It's prat lematzui. It's accessible to him. Abai said to Papa, no. There's another word. The na'ikimateh. In the pasuk by the geneva of a person, it says v'nimtza biyado ka'amina, and was found to have been in his hand. That's an extra word. That teaches us you only get in trouble for someone who is not accessible to you. Amar Rava hilkach. Therefore, hani mikre the dardeke umatlu rabbanan. Those who teach children and those who teach the Talmud, the students are considered readily accessible to them. Therefore, if the teachers of students kidnap a student, he's going to be patur based on this pasuk of vinimsa beyado. Okay. A teacher of children who abducts and sells one of his students is exempt from punishment, says the Rambam. Based on this, Gemara, v'nimtza beyado. Abaye says that's the halakha. Okay, fine. That was that case. Now, ganav misha hetzio. Someone kidnapped a slave who's half slave, half Jew. Right? This is someone ever kinanim. Right? Tananatam. We learn the Mishnah. Yehuda Omer ein la'avadim boshet. One second. Rabbi Yehuda in that Mishnah said you're hayav if you kidnap a slave. Chacham said no. But now we're going to bring another opinion of Rabbi Yehuda regarding slaves. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Omer ein la'avadim boshet. Right? If you cause someone damage, part of the payment is the embarrassment. But he's saying by an eved, you don't have to pay boshet. My time, Rabbi Yehuda. Why do you say you don't have to pay? That's not the halakha. Halakha is you do pay boshet even by an eved. Amar kirab. כי ינצו אנשים יחדיו איש ואחיו. יצא עבד שאין לו אחווה. מי שיש לו אחווה. יצא עבד שאין לו אחווה. Pasuk says, the pasuk that talks about paying the boshet, the embarrassment, uses the lashon achiv, brother. And here a slave is not a brother of a Jew. And therefore, doesn't have to pay boshet. But Rabbanan achiv hu b'mitzvot. The Rabbanan say, no. The slave, he may not be a full-fledged Jew, but he's still a brother in mitzvot, because he has mitzvot like a lady. He has to do all mitzvot she'en zman grama. So therefore he is a brother. Therefore you would have to pay boshet. That's the halakha. It would be like the chachamim. So one second. Over here, if you just says you don't have to pay them boshet, but over here he says if you steal an eved, you have to you hayam mita the hacha. Hechidash Yehuda. Oh, he holds as follows. When it says savar, when it says in the pasuk me'echav kidnaps a brother. Comes to exclude slaves. When it says in the pasuk b'nei Yisrael, that comes to exclude someone who's half a Jew, right? Half a Jew, half a slave. Then when it says mi b'nei Yisrael, that comes to exclude again the same thing, half a slave and half a free person. Having miut achar miut, so you have two exclusions for the exact same thing, one after the other. When you have two exclusions, they come to include, and therefore says Yehuda, Therefore, it comes to include, because it said B'nai Yisrael, Mibnei Yisrael, it comes to include that if you kidnap a half a slave, you would be Hayav Mita of Chenik. But Rabbanan say, no, you're potter. Because it says, Me'echav lafukev l'mashmalahu. No, when it says Echav, you don't exclude slaves because a slave is your brother in the fact that he has some mitzvot. B'nai Yisrael, and Mibnei Yisrael, Chad lemeute Eved, one comes to exclude an Eved, and Chad lemeute mi shechetzio Eved vechetzio ben Horin. And one comes to exclude one who's half an Eved and half a free man. That is the Rambam. One who abducts a slave, even if the abductee is half a slave, half a free man, is exempt from liability, like we're bringing down the Braita and the Mishnah. Okay. Now that we know that what the punishment is for kidnapping, we have to know. We saw the pasuk for the punishing. Now we have to see the pasuk for the azhara, for the warning. So, azhara legonim nefesh menayan. What do we have this warning? It says by the 10 Commandments, lo tigno. It's talking about kidnapping. Of Yochanan Amar. There's another pasuk. That says, "Ki avdaihem asher tziti otam min mitzrayim lo yimacheru mimikeret aved." Okay, they should not be sold in the manner of slave. Now let's sell Jews as slaves. And they're not arguing in the warning. Marka chashalav the geneva. Rabbi Yoshia, who's bringing down the pasuk loy tignov, he's bringing down the warning against kidnapping itself. Marka chashalav the mechir, and the other pasuk that they brought as a warning. That's the selling after kidnapping, right? Which you need to do both in order to get Hayav Mitah, including working that person as well. But there are two warnings for two different aspects of the kidnapping in order to get Hayav Mitah. Now, Gemara says, Tanur Banan, Lo Tignov. It says in the Aseret Dibrot, don't steal. Begonev Nefashot Hakatuv Midaber. Okay, so it's talking about stealing bodies, kidnapping. Or anyway, maybe no, maybe it's talking about money in the sense that how do I know it's talking about nefashot? Amarta. One of the 13 principles of learning Torah is you learn the topic that you're in. When you come to the 10, I said that what are we talking about there? We're talking about nefashot, right? About murder, about adultery, stuff that are chayav mitah. So avkam nefashot. So when it says stealing, it's talking about kidnapping, which is also chayav mitah of chayav mitah of chenek. Tana idach. What about there's another pasuk? It says lo tignovu, velo techachashu, velo teshakeru ish ba'amito. Okay, what when it says lo tignovu there? What does it mean? He told me it means about money. Oh, and maybe it means kidnapping. Learn the topic that you're in. What are we talking about here? Talking about mamon, because the pasuk says you shall not cheat your fellow and you shall not rob, right? And that's what it says in the pasuk, talking about money stuff. So therefore, b'mamon afkan b'mamon. So to him, it is mamon. Okay. Okay, we saw this one already. Let me just see if any other thought that we missed. No, this is where we are up to. Fine. This is where we'll end for today. Thank you for joining. Next week we will continue.